The steroid card, the juice card, has been played on LeBron James. The media is trying to ignore it.
Stem cells, B12, man, I don't even, Balco out, man, I don't even know. I can only imagine.
If the world understood what LeBron did, like other basketball players will hear what LeBron does and go, well, yeah, but that doesn't matter, right? It's like, no. If you knew what these performance enhancers did, then you would know why it does matter. We have the same drug guy, if you will. I know exactly what he's doing.
At nearly 40 years old, LeBron James is defying the laws of aging. Game after game, he continues to dominate, outperforming players in their prime years. In a world of whispers and suspicions, there's a question that's growing louder. Is it all down to natural talent, or is there something else fueling, or shall I say, enhancing this unstoppable force? How exactly is LeBron James still able to perform at such a high level?
Let's look at him. All right, one of his legs is two of mine put together. He ain't built like a normal person.
First time he was in the finals was 2007. I wasn't playing basketball. That's crazy to think about.
The King still rules the court at nearly 40 years of age, but exactly how does he do it? LeBron's still averaging over 25 points a game and is projected to do so once again as a 40-year-old. He's the NBA's all-time leading scorer and the first to hit the 40,000-point mark. He's still putting up numbers that makes everyone question everything they knew about aging. Last season, he shot a career-high 41% from beyond the arc. Even in the twilight of his career, LeBron is still managing to set season career highs. He had a better shooting percentage than Steph Curry and was the 5th highest assist maker in the entire league. It's remarkable how he's still playing at the level he is, and his longevity is truly mind-blowing. But how is LeBron able to keep his body in such incredible shape? How is he able to recover between the extremely short time frame between games, especially when other athletes regress significantly through their mid to late 30s and are almost certainly retired by the time they hit LeBron's age? In fact, the majority have been retired for a number of years. Look at LeBron's new head coach, JJ Redick, who's pretty much the same age. He retired 3 years ago, forged a successful career in the media, and has embarked on a coaching career in the NBA. All while LeBron has kept killing it on the court. He's still a freak of nature. Could performance-enhancing drugs be the reason for LeBron's longevity? It would explain a lot, as the intention behind PEDs is to gain a competitive edge, while increasing strength, endurance, and recovery. Physically, LeBron's still in incredible shape and can bash against players half his age. So strength, check. He's entering his 22nd season in the NBA as the oldest active player in the league, and will tie Vince Carter for the most seasons played in NBA history. So endurance, check. And while there's been signs of injuries creeping in over the past few seasons, LeBron knocked out 71 regular season games throughout 2023-2024, plus a 40-minute play-in game and 5 intense playoff games where he also averaged over 40 minutes per contest. So the ability to recover between each contest and be out on the court for the next? Check. In addition, many critics point to LeBron's jawline growth, hair loss, and cramping as potential indicators of PED use. So that begs the question, is LeBron on the PED train? Is that how he's able to not just perform at such a high level, but to get out on the court every night playing big minutes as a near 40-year-old? You can certainly see why some fans might be side-eyeing the King. But there has seemingly been an open secret as to how LeBron James continues to go strong in his later years, and how he continues to outpace players who are years younger than him so effortlessly. $1.5 million. An amount of money that most NBA players have access to. After all, the minimum salary on an NBA player with just 2 years experience is $2 million. And for a veteran like James or any other player with 10 plus years of experience, it's $3.3 million. But it's how LeBron uses this $1.5 million that's important, and he pours it into his body every single year. Physical maintenance isn't just a routine for the Lakers superstar, it's an obsession. He invests big into the latest state-of-the-art equipment and employs experts in the field to join his journey. cryotherapy to freeze away aches and pains, hyperbaric chambers to push his recovery into overdrive, Normatec leg boosts to keep his legs fresh. So much so that it's like he never ran the countless miles on the hardwood. Add in personal chefs who craft the perfect diet, a small army of trainers who fine-tune his every move, and the very best massage therapist money can buy. All of it adds up to one thing: longevity. But while all the recovery methods and equipment are top of the line, surely they can only take LeBron James so far. After all, Father Time will catch up to the king. Can he really continue without pushing the boundaries, without a little help, like other sports stars have done in years past?
I thought to myself, what can I do to make myself a better player on the field on game day? I wouldn't do anything to give myself an edge to try to make me as good of a football player as could be.
The earliest of doping in sports stretches back to the earliest days of human competition, when athletes were rumored to have consumed figs at the ancient Olympic Games, in a bid to boost their performance. In ancient Rome, athletes competing would consume herbal infusions to boost their strength. And over the centuries, athletes searched for anything that could give them an advantage. In the 19th century, Abraham Wood, a participant in walking endurance races, used laudanum, which contains opiates, to stay awake for 24 hours straight. And with the growing fascination with six-day cycling races also spreading across the Atlantic too, the riders would rely on nitroglycerin to battle exhaustion, a drug used to treat cardiac patients to keep their bodies going, with enormous amounts of spectators attending each day, resulting in greater prizes for the participants in the race. The number of athletes taking the drugs was rising and rising. However, the effects were devastating. Riders began to hallucinate, with American champion Major Taylor famously quitting mid-race after claiming that a man with a knife was chasing him. It was brutal, and a public backlash soon followed, as awareness was growing around the danger that athletes were putting themselves in to achieve success. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, and a new form of doping emerged: anabolic steroids. In 1954, Dr. John Ziegler, a physician for the U.S. weightlifting team, discovered that the Soviet team were using a testosterone as a performance-enhancing drug. And it was the reason behind the program's overwhelming success. In response, Ziegler developed an oral anabolic steroid, resulting in the creation of methandrosterone, known under the brand name as Dianabol. This was the beginning of doping in the modern age, and despite improved regulations over the years, doping has continued to infiltrate sports. Over 30% of athletes participating in the 2011 World Championships in athletics admitted to having used banned substances during their careers. And later, it was revealed that the true number was actually 44%, and that only 0.5% of those tested were caught. They are truly shocking numbers. And when examining why athletes decided to partake in doping, Dr. Mitchell Naughton of the University of Newcastle said that in some extreme cases, the pressure to dope can come from the very organizations put in place to prevent it. Before claiming that financial pressures, sponsors, perceptions of opponents and teammates, media pressure, and belief in the competency of sporting bodies and anti-doping agencies were also influential.
This is too late. I view this situation as one big lie that I repeated a lot of times.
Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Did you ever blood dope or use blood transfusions to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Many high-profile doping cases have hit the headlines over the years, with not many as big as in 2016, when, after years of doping issues, Russia were embroiled in controversy after a state-run doping program was exposed. In a subsequent report, it was revealed that over 600 positive samples were covered up in a wide range of sports, but mainly in athletics and weightlifting. However, there was limited access to Russian records, so it's widely believed that the number is only a minimum and could have been much higher. It was an explosive reveal that resulted in the Russian Federation being banned from all major sporting events from 2019, including the Olympic Games, for 4 years, even though the ban was later reduced to 2 years. The scandal proved that the fight against doping is far from over. But over the years, cheating has taken many forms. One notorious method is the manipulation of the body without foreign substances. Techniques like injecting one's own red blood cells were prevalent at the Tour de France over the years. Lance Armstrong is the first name that comes to mind on this topic, as he miraculously reached the pinnacle of the sport after battling severe testicular cancer. And by 2005, Armstrong had broken records and claimed his 7th Tour de France title. Allegations of doping were always there, even more so after his teammates were caught, which just increased suspicions around Armstrong. But he denied the allegations for over 13 years. Then in 2012, Armstrong was trapped in a huge scandal, which eventually resulted in him famously confessing to doping in a televised interview with Oprah Winfrey, which was later discovered to be a doping empire of Armstrong's subsequently crumbled, and all of his Tour de France titles were stripped. His fall from grace was swift and dramatic, and it was all down to doping, a legacy erased just like that. Stateside, Major League Baseball was grappling with its own doping crisis. The issue of performance-enhancing drugs completely plagued the sport, and over the years, some of the biggest names in baseball have been implicated. The late 1980s to the late 2000s is known as the steroid era. But even before this period, amphetamines were rampant in the sport. Former pitcher David Wells previously stated that 25 to 40% of all baseball players were juiced, with 6-time All-Star and 2-time World Series champion Jose Canseco boldly claiming that 80% of players were using steroids. He attributed his entire career to substances. Drugs were apparently widely available in clubhouses for the players to get their hands on with ease. Serious testing for the players didn't begin until 2003. But despite this, the culture of doping persisted, and countless high-profile names were later exposed for drug use. The storm intensified even further when superstar Alex Rodriguez tested positive for using steroids, with him eventually admitting to the use, sending shockwaves and controversy through the league. As doping scandals were ruining the fair competition element of sports, many sporting governing bodies have been forced to act. The International Olympic Committee responded by creating the World Anti-Doping Agency in 1999. And just like that, the fight against doping had officially begun. Whether it was effective or not at that time, but WADA's purpose has remained consistent over the years: to restore honor to sports. In the United States, another key player emerged in the United States Anti-Doping Agency known as USADA. In 2001, Congress gave USADA its stamp of approval, and the organization was recognized as the official anti-doping agency for Olympic, Pan American, and Paralympic sports in the United States. In the following years, many countries followed suit and formed nationally recognized sports doping agencies, leading to sports across the globe getting cleaned up and fair competition being restored for good. While there are countless doping cases surrounding notable names, and some have continued to filter through in recent years too, the tales of Lance Armstrong and the baseball scandal revealed the lengths that athletes will go for success. In their relentless pursuit of victory, the lines between triumph and disgrace blur, and the aftermath leaves a trail of broken dreams and tarnished legacies in its wake. And the NBA is no different.
And I want to start by apologizing to my teammates, to the Knicks, to the organization. I know I let a lot of people down. There was a mistake. I tried to take something to help me, and it backfired.
In the NBA, there are no shortcuts, no easy way out. And when it comes to drugs, the league has eyes everywhere. Hundreds of drug tests are conducted every season, and the right to do so is buried deep within the collective bargaining agreement, the very document that dictates the rules of engagement between the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association. In Section 6, the anti-drug program, it says that a player shall be tested for prohibited substances at any time with zero warning. 4 times a season and 2 times in the off-season, and that's just the minimum. In fact, the NBA holds the right to test a player up to 9 times, random and unannounced, during a single season. That's up to 6 urine tests and 3 blood tests. As for who gets tested and when, players are selected by a third-party company called Drug Free Sport. So there is no bias. It's a strict random selection process. Not even the league, the union, or the teams know when it's coming. A computerized system generates the name a day before the test. But the testers on the ground don't receive the list until the day of. Then comes a knock on the door. No warnings, no chances to prepare. But there have been whispers and conspiracies that the NBA planned their drug tests, as quite often when a player has a stunning performance, the drug tests follow as if on cue. An example? Well, there's many of them. When Damian Lillard erupted for a jaw-dropping 71 points in February 2023, as he was heading back to the Portland locker room ready to celebrate, he instead found a medical attendant waiting for him. He had been quote-unquote randomly selected for a drug test. Lillard couldn't believe it.
I mean, honestly, I was like, are y'all serious? Like, I did the urine test yesterday, and then they backed it up with the blood draw tonight after the game. That's actually my first time in my career being tested after a game. And then aside from that, they know that I'm scared of needles. So it brought me down from here to the floor.
But Lillard is far from the first to raise an eyebrow. Cleveland's Donovan Mitchell knows the feeling, as when he too dropped 71 points in a single game, the same thing happened. And it doesn't stop there. Back in 2014, Corey Brewer, a player with a career average of just 8.7 points per game, somehow exploded for 51 points in a game. And right after, Brewer found himself on the receiving end of a drug test. It doesn't just happen with big scoring performances too, as when Michael Carter-Williams posted a picture on Instagram showing his offseason gains, the very next day he was subject to a drug test. And when Danny Green, who never dunks, rose up for the Lakers and slammed the ball down for a spectacular putback, he too had to do a test straight after. There's countless examples of this happening. But according to an NBA spokesperson, it's all done at random. A coincidence that they were subject to the computerized system and generated the day before. Make of that what you will. Now, these were moments where there was proven to be no wrongdoing. But that isn't the case all the time.
How are you not looking into the 90s or the 80s when they played all 82 games with no medical staff, no ankle injuries, these motherfuckers even catch flus, all of them with bald-headed by the age of 25.
Back in 1996, Roy Tarpley entered the NBA, and while his talent was clear to see, trouble soon followed. In the late 80s and early 90s, Tarpley violated the league's substance abuse policy 3 times, and after the 3rd time, he was banned from the NBA for good. Fast forward just a couple decades later, and O.J. Mayo was suspended by the NBA for drug violations after testing positive for DHEA. Mayo was only initially suspended for 10 games, but following another violation, the league banned him permanently in 2016. Even though he was eligible to apply for reinstatement in 2018, Mayo has not returned to the NBA since. Tyreek Evans and Jalen Harris are 2 recent names who were banned as well, after being found guilty of drug violations. And even though they eventually returned, it completely changed the trajectory of their careers, as they had to attempt comebacks through the NBA's official minor league, the G League, before settling with careers overseas. Chris Andersen, also known as Birdman, is a basketball icon who successfully managed to return though. Andersen briefly lost his place in the NBA due to drug violations in 2006. But 2 years later, he resumed his career in the league. And he even became an NBA champion in 2013. Other high-profile names to have violated the NBA's anti-drug programs in recent years includes Tristan Thompson, Joakim Noah, and DeAndre Ayton. Although none of the 3 were permanently banned, instead they were served lengthy suspensions. But back to LeBron James and the doping allegations. 10 years ago, James found himself in the crosshairs of a federal investigation. As the DEA were investigating the largest doping operation in U.S. sports history, the Biogenesis scandal, which exposed several Major League Baseball stars, but even the King wasn't above suspension, as he, along with his inner circle, were looked into. LeBron's longtime friend and business manager, Randy Mims, found his name entangled in the investigation, with Mims being on record purchasing testosterone and injections for his own personal use. Miami trainer David Alexander, a Miami-based personal trainer who worked with LeBron during his time with the Heat and the Cavaliers, was also caught up in the investigation too. But after the smoke cleared and the investigation reached its conclusion, James was cleared for any wrongdoing, with the lead DEA investigator on the case saying, "There was no scandal, no doping, nada." Now, back to the initial question. How exactly is LeBron James able to perform at such a high level at nearly 40 years of age? Maverick Carter, LeBron's longtime business partner, let the world in on a secret a few years back. The secret of James's expensive mission to avoid father time. Remember that $1.5 million he spends every year? Well, that's what Carter told the world, and that every dollar is aimed at staying at the top. When looking at the extra things James has done over the years, we've already mentioned what he does and uses to keep himself in tip-top shape. But it's not about what he uses, it's about how he uses them, and how ahead of the game he is. LeBron was one of the first to step into the cryo chamber, a more intense, cutting-edge version of the ice bath that other players were using. He even wears the Normatec leg boots on his way to the arena, pumping his legs with fresh blood to stay unstoppable. Donyell Marshall, who played 3 years with James on the Cavaliers, chimed in on that discussion, stating that LeBron does the extra things that others don't, resulting in his longevity, not just throughout his career, but throughout lengthy seasons that included deep playoff runs. So you can see why he's ahead of the game. And when most players would see the end coming and would accept their fate in pending retirement, LeBron James simply sees an opportunity to extend his reign. While $1.5 million is a lot of money, it's pocket change when you consider the $47 million that LeBron earned from the Lakers last season alone, and the near $500 million that he's earned throughout his career to date. There's even another $100 million to add in the next 2 seasons as well. Throw in endorsements, sponsorships, and business ventures, LeBron James is a money-making machine, and he's earned even more money off the court than he has on it, resulting in him achieving billionaire status. So, it's not just about extending his playing career and performances on the court, it's about keeping the money machine ticking for as long as possible. The reality is that nowadays, most sports are being tested for doping on a large scale. Ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, reports state that close to 90% of athletes were tested, at least once ahead of the games. So there really aren't many places to hide, and in the NBA, it's even stricter, with players having to accept being tested up to 9 times in a single season over the course of an entire career. That's an awful lot of drug tests, and the capability of getting away with doping decreases significantly. So, in LeBron James's case, while it's unusual to see what he's doing at his age, he's an unusually great player, with his countless accolades and career achievements speaking to themselves. Maybe, just maybe, we're witnessing the dawn of a new age in sports, an era where age doesn't mean decline, an era spearheaded by LeBron James, a man who doesn't just rely on talent alone, but invests big money in his body, in his performance and recovery, millions of dollars. But what's even more valuable? Time. LeBron dedicates an incredible amount of time to make sure he becomes the greatest to ever do it. Every workout, every session, every moment he pours into his craft isn't just about maintaining, it's about redefining what's possible. LeBron James isn't slowing down, he's changing the game, leading a revolution. He's ushering in a future where the best athletes don't just burn bright, but instead, they burn longer than anyone ever thought was possible.